What is going on, everyone? It's Super here, and welcome to another Injustice 2 video. Now today this one's gonna be a little bit different because I wanted to talk a little bit about the changes, or not really changes because they're two different games, but a lot of people have been asking me for a while since the Injustice 2 beta finished. What are the differences between Mortal Kombat X and Injustice 2 gameplay wise? So obviously I'm not going to go over things like gear, because there's going to be new stuff coming to Injustice that wasn't in MK, and then vice versa. There's going to be stuff in Mortal Kombat X that is not going to be in Injustice. So this is just going to be gameplay, because I did play the Injustice 2 beta. I got a taste of what we should expect, or what I could expect from Injustice 2. I could compare it to Mortal Kombat X. So before I do get started on the video, if you guys could please leave a like rating, it's always appreciated. So the gameplay in the background, I'm gonna have an Injustice gameplay or an Injustice match, and then a Mortal Kombat X match, and then keep switching it and alternating between the two. So here we go. The first change, or the first difference that I have here on my list, is probably the most obvious one at first glance, which is the screen size. Now the screen size for Mortal Kombat X is a lot smaller than the Injustice screen, especially the way the characters are zoomed out. So in Injustice 2 you get to see a lot more of the stage, a lot more of the characters, but in Mortal Kombat X the characters are more zoomed in and they're a lot closer to the screen, and they look a lot bigger compared to the Injustice characters. And the reason for this is because Injustice has a giant stage, and the farther apart the characters get, the more zoomed out they get. And it's the exact same way in Mortal Kombat X, but Injustice 2 has such a big stage, and each character could go like so much further away from each other, from one end to the stage to the other end of the stage, that the characters get zoomed out so much more. And it's something noticeable. It's something that you're gonna get used to pretty quickly, I'm not gonna lie. When I first picked up Injustice 1 last year, when I wanted to sort of play it a little bit because I knew Injustice 2 was going to be coming out, it caught me off guard at first, but within a couple matches I got used to it. So this is a change that visually is like you get taken aback by it, like wow, the characters in MKX are so much bigger, but you're definitely going to get used to it pretty quickly. So moving on to change number 2, or difference number 2. I keep calling it change. Difference number 2 is the blocking. Now this one is the one that a lot of Mortal Kombat X players that picked up fighting games through Mortal Kombat X are gonna have a hard time, and of course I'm talking about the blocking. So in Injustice 2 and in the first Injustice game, the way you block is you have to hold back or back down to block, because there is no block button like there is in Mortal Kombat X. Now this is, like I mentioned, something that if you picked up Mortal Kombat X as your first fighting game, having to hold back to block or hold down back to block, and having to deal with cross-ups and crossover setups is definitely going to be something that you're not going to get used to right away. It's going to take time, but definitely hang in there because it'll get easier over time. Now, if you've played other fighting games like Street Fighter and the majority of other fighting games out there, you're gonna be just fine. It's basically the same thing. Someone jumps over you, you block, the opposite side and where they're gonna land, and you just have to watch out for crossover setups. I know there's gonna be a ton in Injustice 2, but that just takes, training and practice and knowing what setup each character has. But for someone who has never played a fighting game other than Mortal Kombat X, it's definitely gonna take a little bit of getting used to. So the blocking for Injustice 2 compared to MKX is definitely one of the biggest difference gameplay wise. So moving on here, I guess the movement, right? Now it's definitely a lot better than Injustice, or Injustice 2's movement is light years better than the first Injustice game. So in the first Injustice game, just walking back and forth felt like you were stuck in mud or quicksand, because characters' walk speeds were awful. Like, what were they thinking, having the walk speed these characters had? The dashing forward, dashing back was normal. It was just fine. It was just, walking back and forth made it a little bit hard to, play what you call neutral, where both characters are, character length or close to each other, and you are trying to size up what your opponent's going to do, it makes it really hard to play neutral when the walk speed is really bad. So it's not too much of a difference anymore compared to Injustice 2 compared to MKX. The only thing is there is no run button, so the only thing you could do is dash backwards and dash forward in Injustice 2. The walk speed is perfect, the walk speed is fine for most of the characters, and it makes it playing footsies and playing neutral a lot easier than it was in Injustice 1. So run button, it's not too much of a difference. They're still dashing up, dashing backwards in MKX, but that's definitely something that MKX players need to know. There's no run button in Injustice 2. Moving on here, now this one is something that I personally had a hard time dealing with in Injustice 2 beta, because the combo system and the way you input combos on hit or on block in Injustice 2 is a little bit different than Mortal Kombat X, and this one actually took me a while to understand and get used to, and I hope I can explain it to you guys in a way that you guys could understand. So in Mortal Kombat X, what happens is, for example, let's just say that I jump in on my opponent and I actually hit him, right? I jump in with my punch attack and I hit him. I don't have to press a combo until I see my punch hit, and I could press the combo, pretty slowly. I could just press it at a normal speed. I don't have to do anything before my punch connects. But with Injustice 2, they have this thing called dial-up combos, which means you have to input your combo before your opponent gets hit by any of your attacks if you want that combo to fully come out. So in Mortal Kombat X, like I mentioned, if I do a jump in punch, I don't have to press anything until my jump in punch attack hits either on block or on hit, and then I could input my combo and it's still gonna combo. So in Injustice 2, if I jump attack, if I jump in on my opponent, I press the punch button to jump in on him, regular jump punch. But before my attack even connects versus my opponent, whether he blocks it or he gets hit by it, I have to input the entire string that I want to do, or I have to input the string plus the special move that I want to do. So let's just say for Superman, forward 2-3 is his lunging punch that you guys have seen over and over and over again. It's been there since the first Injustice game. If I jump in with Superman, while I'm in the air, I have to input forward 2-3, and that's the only way that my attack is going to come out. So if I jump in with Superman and I wait until my punch comes out, if my opponent blocks it, he is going to be able to punch me out of any other attack. And if he gets hit by it, the jump in punch a lot of times will not combo, because you have to dial up your combo before your attack even hits on block or on hit. I really hope that this wasn't confusing, but it's definitely something that it took me almost to the end of the beta, which the beta lasted for a month, right? It took me like 3 weeks to get used to the dial-up combo system, because I've been playing Mortal Kombat X for 2 years, and I could just jump in punch, I could do my combo whenever I want. But for Injustice 2, you have to dial up your combo in order for it to come out. So that's definitely something that you guys are going to get used to, especially on block. One other thing, I guess I'll talk about this in conjunction with the dial-up combos. Whenever you jump in on somebody and they block your attack, you're only I think you're minus. So if you guys don't know frame data, there's being plus, there's being minus. Being minus means that your opponent has more frames to move before you can. He has more frames of animation to move before you can. So if you guys press the same button and you're minus, your opponent's button will actually hit first. And it's vice versa if you're plus. If you're plus, you have more frames of animation to work with before your opponent does. So in Injustice 2, if your opponent blocks your jump and punch, you're actually not able to, continue pressure like you can in Mortal Kombat X. If I jump in with Alien with my jump 2 and I hit you, I get a free combo even if you block it. I get a free combo to pressure you. In Injustice 2, it is not like that. If I block a jumping punch, I could down 1 you, I could down 2 you, I could down 3 you, I could do any of that stuff that I want, because I'm not stuck there having to block a jumping punch and then another combo, and then, you know, for more pressure. So the block stun in Injustice 2 is definitely, it favors a lot more. It favors the defensive player a lot more than the offensive player, because you're not as plus jumping in on someone if your opponent blocks it. So those two things, dial up combo and the jumping punches being not as plus on blocks, so that means you don't get free pressure. As someone who played, you know, Mortal Kombat X primarily for the last 2 years, it took me like 3 weeks to get used to that shit. So hopefully you guys are quick learners, or a lot quicker than I did, because it took me a while. Now the last thing here is something that just, you know, this is just the way Injustice 2 is compared to Mortal Kombat X. So Mortal Kombat X, you guys know, there's so many rushdown characters, there's so many 50-50s, meaning overhead or low combo starters, there's so many mix-up potentials. So the game is very fast-paced, it's very offensive-based. And in Injustice 2, it is not like that. You can, of course, still play offense as much as you want, but there are a lot more defensive options than in Mortal Kombat X. There is push blocking. It only costs you 1 bar of meter. There are, you know, ways to escape combos, the air attacks. So if your opponent has you in a combo and you're in the first round, you don't have access to a clash, and there are no breakers in Injustice 2. So what you do is, for 2 bars of meter, you could actually try to get out of the combo that your opponent puts you in by air teching backwards or upwards. Now, if you land on your opponent's combo after you do this, you're going to continue to get comboed, but that's like the risk reward that you take whenever you want to try to air tech. And a lot of times, if your opponent commits to a combo or commits to a move, if you air tech at the right time, you're going to be able to punish him for putting you in a combo, because, you know, you use this air tech defensive option to get out of the combo. And I think that's really fucking cool, that you get so many more defensive options in Injustice 2. You also have the meter burn dash for, I believe it's 2 bars of meter. You get this meter burn dash that is invincible for the most part. I don't think it's invincible on startup, because you can like wake up with it, but it's used to get maybe 3/4 across the screen really, really fast. You know, you can use it for setups, etc. So that meter burn dash doesn't have to be like a defensive option. It could be an offensive option. So I saw a lot of Batmans, they would call in their trait, and then they would send out their you know, their bats out, and they would meter burn dash to the other side, making it a hard to block situation for the opponent. They had to block the other way where Batman was. They had to block where Batman ended up, instead of blocking where the bats are coming, because, you know, the bats are going to hit before Batman does. So it makes it a really interesting way to set your opponent up. But the other thing is, of course, zoning. Now, zoning is part of the defensive tools that you get. A lot more characters are zoning characters in Injustice 2, and that's just how it is. But like I mentioned, it doesn't mean that you can't play offense with those characters. You know, take me, for example. I got really disappointed that Dr. Fate was not more of an offensive character. But then again, you could always play offense with even, you know, zoning characters. So it's going to be fine. But yeah, zoning and defense in Injustice 2 are a lot more prevalent than Mortal Kombat X. So, whoa, almost 15 minutos. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Those are the main differences from Mortal Kombat X to Injustice 2. Wanted to make this video, so if you guys have never played any fighting game other than Mortal Kombat X, at least for Injustice 2, you guys will be somewhat prepared if you know, just pay attention to what I mentioned in this video. So that's going to be it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. What's going on, guys? It's Super here. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you guys subscribe or check out any of these videos linked at the top. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.